Welcome back to another episode of the Corporate Cowboys podcast. As always, my name is Alex, and I'll be your host for the next 30 minute free, FREE, free consultation you have with the Corporate Cowboys. Today's proof of life, it's Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. And if you don't know by now, these 30-minute consults are a sort of professional development session that you get for free, that you don't have to pay for. You can, if you want to, you can donate directly to us, or you can reach out if you want a private session all of your own, right? We understand that sometimes we don't have that circle of individuals, that circle of associates who are also on their path to professional development that we can bounce ideas off of, that we can come to for counsel or a consult, for strategy, for plotting, for planning their moves through corporate. And having been a corporate cowboy for about, what's it been? 15 years? Nah. Because I'm dating myself now and I still want to. I still want to aim for the younger demographic, the aspiring, the always aspiring professional. Let's say more than 10 years. I've been doing this shit for more than a decade. So I'm not new. I've been around the block a couple times professionally, right? I've been doing it 10 plus years professionally. Unprofessionally, I've been doing dirt too. So by all means, you have questions, we got suggestions. All right. Nothing that we convey across in this medium via the podcast, via our other presences on social media should be construed as legal advice. None of it. None of it, right? We do not condone any wrongful activity. We don't promote any illicit behaviors, though it could be discussed. It could be discussed more so the cons to doing it, the cons to participating in it. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is cultivate more corporate cowboys. Help you develop yourself professionally. Ideally, we would like to have a circle of associates who are geared towards a similar objective in life, in their careers. So, today's question is coming from r/career guidance. I pull a lot, actually most of my questions off of Reddit because they are questions that for the most part are directed at the general public. Every now and then, the hypothetical client will give us enough context to go off of, enough context that we might be able to inform a decent opinion, right? A decent opinion. Obviously, if we had the hypothetical client in front of us, we would be asking deeper questions. We would want as much information as we could possibly obtain in however long we have to obtain it, however long you choose your session to be. And in that way, we're able to give a better informed opinion. And doing so, well, really, it's your professional decision to act on professional opinions, right? So we can give you all the motivation, we can give you all the insights, we can give you all of the strategies and the approaches and every possible angle. But if you are not motivated to move, if you're not convicted, if you're not committed, if you are not the consummate professional that you are striving to be, right? Because it's a state of being. Sure, you're aspiring to be a professional always, and in doing so, you are the consummate professional in how you act. If you're not striving to do that, I mean, what good is an opinion? You may as well just be donating your money. But we're here to help. So we can where we are able. So if you find yourself in a position where you could use a second perspective, by all means, reach out to us. We're on Instagram. That's at Corporate Cowboys with a Z. You can find us on Patreon, the Corporate Cowboys Podcast, as I've mentioned time and time again. And you can write to us too. Snail mail it. P.O. Box 3372, Rancho Cordova, California 95741. Right. Today's question, they're asking for advice. So they've flared it. They've flagged it, flared it, asking for advice. And the question is, will a risque social media presence derail or damage a career? Ooh, I want to say it can derail it. It can damage it, absolutely. Yes, it can. If you are a professional, be a professional. If you want to have a wild social media presence, expect wild people in your sphere of influence. And sometimes not the kind of wild you were expecting. Sometimes not the friendly. Sometimes not the friendly wild. They're going to be oppositional to you, right? They may be the ops, so to speak. I myself have some experience in that department from law school and before. So they write here in the body, will risque photographs on one's Instagram or other public social media account public? You see, why are you having your shit public? But at the same time, I also had my settings to a rather public setting, right? So I had my private information private, but most of what I posted was public. So they're asking, will risque photos on one's Instagram or other public social media account have the potential to damage or derail career prospects? For instance, they ask, someone young but who may be on a solid career trajectory in the corporate world posts very risque photos of themselves on Instagram or other social media. Is this an acceptable practice? What do HR professionals or seasoned supervisors have to say about this? Of course, what you do on your own time should not affect your day job. But if a coworker finds out and the pictures become a water cooler topic, then what? Question mark. Can one become first picked for a RIF? That's a reduction in force, right? If they're right sizing the company and they just start cutting fools off, would you be the first in line to be let go? Would you be the first in line? You wouldn't be the first in line, but would you be the first to be let go because of executive decisions? Can one be looked over for a promotion? What are the real world implications and consequences? I feel like this has got to be a young person asking, right? Oh, and they're right. They continue. They say, I am asking on behalf of a friend who has a 20-something son who graduated with honors and snagged a very lucrative job out of college. Perhaps this kind of social presence is widely accepted now? Question mark. I am not talking muscle pics, but very risque dress up, but scantily clad pictures. Well, in today's day and age, you might get a fucking medal given inclusivity and quotas. Sorry to be blunt, but if the shoe fits and you get blisters, walk further. How about that? Or step out of them. Walk barefoot. You got to break those in somehow. It says, what are the real world implications and consequences? This sounds like it's coming from a young person or someone who doesn't have as much experience in the executive life. the executive level or as a professional, right? Because it all depends. It depends on context and it depends on case. If we had the hypothetical client in front of us, obviously we would want to review what it is that they're posting in case it impacts their professional image somehow. Beyond that, we want to know how they work, how long they've been uh, they've been working, what experience they have in the past, in order for whatever reputation they do have to not have been impacted, right? If they got a very lucrative job, it means that their employer or prospective employer, because they got a lucrative offer, it means their prospective employer has got the resources to investigate them, has got the resources to do their due diligence and find whether or not this applicant has a social media presence and what it is that they post, right? Because if they become a representative of the company, of the organization, I've have I signed agreements? I think I've signed agreements as far as what type of social media presence you could have. I think my very first job had something like this about what I could post regarding my job, what I could do. So it was like a non disclosure, but it was a confidentiality agreement while you were employed with them. Non disclosures typically come up when you're let go or when you leave an employer. But in this case, it was a confidentiality agreement of what I could post, what I could say. And for the most part, my stuff is private, and it's not like I use it at all. Mostly, I'm on professional apps, or I use it for business reasons. If anything, I've actually locked down or put my personals on ice while I manage or help manage the social media for corporate Cowboys. So that's been fun. If anything, it gets me out of that space. It gets me out of that mental space where I'm sucked in trying to obtain likes for bullshit pictures that I used to post of, like, I don't know, food that I would eat or places that I would visit or I don't know, a new beer that I was trying, right? Because after a while that becomes monotonous. And while I do recognize the benefits of having a social circle, I recognize that there is even more benefit to having a professional circle, to converting your social circle into something strictly professional, right? Now, motherfuckers want to do it for clout, motherfuckers want to do it for attention. By all means, you do you. Now, you expect it or you want it to not affect what you do professionally. That's where I beg to differ, because what you do personally directly informs what you do professionally. And what you do professionally only bleeds into what you do personally, unless you embody it completely. Unless, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, you are striving to be the consummate professional. What you do personally will meet you professionally, right? So if you're posting wild content, right, and you're somehow exposed, you could come across someone from your audience, right? And they're going to come at you wild because it's what they know about you personally. They may not know a lick about you and what you do professionally, but given your history on social media, they'll approach you from that angle. And if you're, Lord forbid, in the middle of a business lunch trying to handle some work, and somebody comes out at you from left field on just a wild tip, you may be taken aback. If you don't know how to mitigate it, if you don't know how to de escalate or convert that energy into something productive that will allow you to not blow your cover in business professionally, right? Because if they expose your professionalism as a facade because you're posting up thought pictures or thirst traps or what have you, right? which again, like I said, with today's inclusivity and quotas for it, I don't know, they could give you a participation trophy and actually hire you on because, I don't know, you're empowered or you're brave or something. But if you don't have the chops to back it up, if you don't have the work experience, if you don't have the acumen to support it or to at least allow someone to tolerate it, I don't give a shit if you're a 8, 9, or a 10 on the Richter scale. I'm letting you go. I don't give a fuck because you become more of a liability unless you know how to like stand there and shut up and look like a model, right? And just be a model. That's what a model is you're just modeling. You're just there. You're just there being alive in the essence. That's it. Unless you're getting paid for that, you need to be carrying some bags. You need to be carrying your weight. You become a bag person like the rest of us. A bagman carrying dirt and getting your hands dirty, right? And that comes back to how productive you are, the type of work you carry out. Somebody might think I'm handsome. My mother says I'm handsome. I'm kidding. Jokes. Some folks might think that I'm handsome, right? But if I'm fucking useless, I'm also worthless. Like what's the good in that, right? Real world implications and consequences. Again, I think the real world implication and consequence is gonna be whether or not the position that you put your supervisor in, and I've been a supervisor, right? Whether the position that you put me in is gonna be one where I have to cover for you, or is it gonna be one where I have to back you up in your actions, right? It's best that you let me know what it is that you post because you're representing me when you're out there. That's if I don't investigate you, or if you have like some fake Insta, some Finsta, where you're posting under a pseudonym or an alias. That's on you. You're taking that risk. If you get discovered, I'm cutting you off. Easy. That's if you didn't tell me before, right? If you told me before and we come to an understanding, so be it. But if it comes to light and you are not the type of person, the type of professional that merits support, again, it's just as easy to clip you and let you go. You want real world implications and consequences? It could be a lucrative job. I might be the one paying you, right? And if you're fumbling the fucking bag with our clients because of some bullshit that you want attention for, you want hearts or gold stars or whatever the fuck they hand out nowadays. You just want clout, right? And you can get plenty of clout in the corporate world. But if you want to do it the easy way for me is to let you go. To let you go. If the value is not there, if the value exchange is not there, right? Your value as a professional versus your value as, I don't know, a thought or a fucking, I don't know, a clout chaser. Sometimes it might not be worth it. Sometimes it is. It depends on the professional. It depends on you. It's one of the many overarching themes of this podcast is that it depends on you, on how you measure yourself, on how you value yourself. Because, professionally speaking, if you're not developing yourself professionally and you're only developing yourself personally, you're chasing hedonistic or pleasurable acts, right? It'll show. Again, it will show in the quality of your work. What you do personally informs what you do professionally. And what you do professionally It only bleeds into what you do personally. So if you're not aspiring to be a consummate professional, if you're not aspiring to consummate professionalism, it'll show. And I might mark you down a couple of points because I'm like, well, maybe this person is off of their game, right? But if it comes to light, if the reason for this is because you're fucking around and not taking care of business, then this business is not going to take care of you. I need individuals who take themselves seriously. You don't need to take life serious, right? Because life and death are on opposite ends of a string. And it's a string that you play, that you pluck, that you know how to resonate or make resonate, right? But you have to take yourself seriously when you play with this string. You're born into it. You're born into this corporate war, right? And sure, I've made my mistakes also. I mean, I wasn't posting for just clout. I'm not out there flashing money or flashing guns or flashing intimate affairs or cars, right? None of that. Now, what you see on the corporate Cowboys feed is typically what I do when I'm not working day to day. That's professional. If I could go back to when I was in my early 20s or before, I guess, whenever I had social media, whenever I first had social media, if I could meet myself, go back in time and talk to this younger Alex, I would let them know exactly that. I want to keep this strictly professional because it's what you're showing in public. Granted, even then, I was a stand-up guy, criminal mind, so I wasn't flashy, flamboyant, but I was having fun. Fun to the point of recklessness, right? Where I was sharing personal opinions, private opinions even. Opinions that are not popular. Unpopular opinions, hot takes, right? So the kids call them nowadays, hot takes. And motherfuckers bitch and whine, and they take it up with social media, the companies, right? And you get your accounts removed. I'm not new to this. We're very well aware of what quote unquote private companies are free to do, right? But I digress. Let me read one or two of these comments here. I got a little bit of time. And of course, I'll critique them. But like I was mentioning, as far as real world implications and consequences, again, the consequences depends on what you're doing. Is it good or is it bad? Is it righteous or is it not? Right? Because again, you could be cloud chasing for the right reasons if you're doing it right. Maybe you're uh, hyping up professional development, right? A lot of the memes nowadays have that vibe to it. Like, I don't know, like the alpha or the sigma. Sure, some of it is really extremized and just on just the far end of almost being cartoonish and not realistic. But for the most part, I mean, if you're minding the stoic material or you pay attention to some stoic teachings and other philosophical understandings as to how to conduct yourself in life and in business and in relationships, for the most part, it's edifying, right? For the most part. But again, there's rabbit holes for everything. So implications and consequences, some of them you will see immediately and some of them you will see not so immediately, right? You will see direct consequences, which might be those pictures and the opinions that people derive from them. They see a picture of you scantily clad in risque poses, compromising poses, right? And the opinions formed directly from it could negatively impact your business relations. The indirect impact, right? The indirect impact is going to come from what you do on your personal time and how it bleeds, how it informs what you do professionally, right? It's the same thing as going off on a weekend bender, showing up on Monday hungover, and you're working like shit, and people notice. Think about that for a sec. Think about that for a sec. But if what you do professionally is not necessarily by the book, but upstanding, right? If you're a stand-up professional, that's going to bleed into you being a stand-up person privately. A stand-up guy with a criminal mind. The first comment here says, yeah, everything needs to be kept private. Do not add your coworkers on social media except maybe for that one best friend who you regularly hang out with outside of work and lament with about the job. You see how even then they want to keep it professional and they include that personal exemption, right? And that's still even then what you do with them privately will inform how you work professionally. If you go out later for drinks and you bitch about how bad the job is or what kind of ass your boss is like, what kind of jerk your boss acts like, that will inform how you work in the workplace. You won't work to your optimum level. And if the work environment really is to that degree, I mean, shit, consider a change. Consider changing yourself. Consider changing your coworker. Consider changing your boss. Consider changing the company you work for so that you improve constantly, so that you are on your path, so you don't deviate from it and continue developing yourself professionally. Yeah, keep it all private. Keep it all private, except don't keep it private with the one person. Fucking, it's the worst advice. Either you keep it public or you keep it private, and that's it. And what you put in public, well, you accept that risk. You accept that risk for what you post. And hopefully that risk tames a little bit of the content about what you post. I'm tame as fuck. I'm tame as fuck. Have you seen the corporate Cowboys page? What's it about? It's just about professional development, nothing else. It's literally not legal advice. A second comment here says, yes, it can have an impact. And don't only make them private. Be careful who you add. Screenshots do make the rounds. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to report you, they're going to take screenshots. So, I don't know. These comments are pretty generalized, pretty vague. I think I gave a better perspective. I mean, I've got supervisory experience, right? So I've rubbed shoulders, I've dug trenches, I've worked with the troops. I mean, shit, we all start as soldiers, and some of us move up, right? Some of us have the inclination to move up. Some of us have the ambition. Some of us aspire. Some of us are just hungry, right? And I might be all of them. But as far as real world implications and consequences, I think I gave a better perspective than we found in these Reddit answers today. That being said, it doesn't mean that you can't add your coworkers. You absolutely can add your coworkers. If for whatever reason you want multiple accounts, consider having one only for private and one for professional. One that you could use to network professionally with. For a time, I was handling that. One to use professionally and one to use personally only. One to only add family and friends and close acquaintances, and the other strictly professional. People that you meet in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day career life, right? And the other, just personal. Just personal. If you have any questions, you have any concerns, by all means, reach out to us. And if it's not yourself, if it's somebody you know, refer them. We would appreciate that. We just want to share some of this corporate love. You're born into this life. I think it's best you know how to work with corporate so you don't end up working for it. Take care of yourself. Have a nice one.